Here's the president. I'm asking everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. We're going to read this one more time. No violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. That is from the President of the United States.
Welcome to Open Source News. I am your brother and your host, BCP. Please receive a big hug from all of us. Today, we knew was going to be a historic day, and my heart is very, very heavy with what's happened today. There are so many things going on right now that unless you are an absolute sociopath or psychopath, you are going to have mixed emotions and feelings about today. It's a mixed bag. It's a story of betrayal. Some of us were optimistic, cautiously so, but realistic that perhaps things weren't going to play out exactly how we wanted, and that's exactly what happened. A young woman of the age of 16 has perished, and there are reports of absolute infiltration by the anti-FA Marxist types within our movement, within the Patriot movement, that instigated and did what happened today that led to these very, very unfortunate events. Before we go any further, folks, if you like my videos, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe and become a member of our Patriot family. There are some people in the comments section that have been absolutely disgusting, happy that we didn't get our way and that these things happened. And people, I saw comments gloating about our optimism that we would prevail. Who says we're not going to prevail? We'll be getting into that in this episode.
Welcome to Open Source News. Please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Have a blessed day.
All right, once again, welcome to Open Source News. I was watching the Right Side Broadcasting Network's speech. They aired the speech of Don Jr., and everyone else that was part of the Trump team and President Trump. At around 1 o'clock, I did a split screen thing where on the laptop we had, and this is my whole family, Mrs. BCP, myself, and our 4 beautiful children, all of my children from the same wife. Secret to life is find yourself a partner to spend the rest of your life with, have children with them, and be committed to that partner and your children. Total recipe for true fulfillment and happiness in this life. So here we are, surrounded the television as a family, and then once we saw the session was happening, the joint session, President Trump was still speaking, so we had on the laptop President Trump finishing up his speech, and we started to watch the proceedings. So when it first happened, we were like, yes, I told my kids, wait till we get to Arizona. So we had Alabama, fine. We had Alaska, fine. Then we had Arizona, in which Arizona said, we do not, we want to debate this. We don't accept this as a valid certification. I can't remember the exact language, folks. And then Ted Cruz stood up and go, do you have a senator who is in writing? And it was Senator Ted Cruz stood up. We all cheered or whatever.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote of the state of Arizona that the teller is verified appears to be regular in form and authentic?
President, I, Paul Gosar from Arizona.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Arizona rise? I
rise for myself and 60 of my colleagues to object to the counting of the electoral ballots from Arizona.
Is the objection in writing and signed by a senator?
Yes, it is.
It is. An objection presented in writing and signed by both a representative and a senator complies with the law. Chapter 1 of Title 3 of the United States Code. The clerk will report the objection.
Objection to counting the electoral votes of the state of Arizona. We, a member of the House of Representatives and a United States Senator, object to the counting of the electoral votes of the state of Arizona on the ground that they were not, under all of the known circumstances, regularly given.
Are there further objections to the certificates from the state of Arizona? The chair hears none. The two houses will withdraw from joint session. Each house will deliberate separately on the pending objection and report its decision back to the joint session. The Senate will now retire to its chamber.
Now, what happened was, because we were watching everything simultaneously, we didn't realize that Mike Pence's statement had come out as President Trump was talking about how he would not be certifying it. So we were still very optimistic that after the 2-hour debate, they would come back and then Mike Pence would say, VP Mike Pence. So we were optimistic that at that point, even though every indication was that he wouldn't, we were hopeful that after that point he would say, you know what, this isn't a settled thing. Let's send it back to the state of Arizona. But we didn't even get to that point. So what I'm going to do now is, when that was when I was watching it, I was watching the proceedings on. We had Right Side Broadcasting Network. Check them out, support them, and I would say, if you have the means, it is very much worth the $5 in joining them. They're doing great work. They're at all the rallies, what have you, and they're completely funded by viewers. But then we jumped over, I think, to C-SPAN to watch the proceedings, and then it just went dark. And, you know, there was great things being said. We were jumping between C-SPAN and another channel. Can't remember which one to watch, the House and the Senate. And then just the things were cut off. So we went to the news, and it was, then we started to find out what was happening. But we were getting a lot of false information and narrative. And the most fair one was Newsmax. They had it live, and they were giving all types of points of things to consider on what was going on. So let me give you a good synopsis of what happened. I think Newsmax broke it down the best. Because this platform, I can't show you the actual, if you haven't already seen the news of what actually happened with people storming the Capitol, then go on Twitter or another YouTube channel to see it. I'm not going to show you those visuals, because then this video will get blocked and you won't be able to see it, or they'll suppress it all the way down. So I'm going to play this Newsmax coverage for you. They do a great job explaining what took place today, and they do it, and then I'm going to edit it so it's pretty concise, so you can see the timeline. I think the timeline is very important.
Kind of just a full wrap of what's happening here at this point. You had a big Trump speech late this morning, right there by the Capitol building, maybe a mile away. He talked about the election, all the issues he has with the election, what they think was a steal of the election. He put out a bunch of information, laid it out for a massive crowd that we still don't have an exact number on at this point. And then at some point, this crowd, right around 1 o'clock, when the whole situation started in the Capitol, they moved this massive crowd up towards the Capitol building, and then some of them moved there up the steps, got closer and closer, breached some of the security, and then a number of them made their way inside. And from there, and we only have some images, some security images, some pictures from Getty Publishing, and other things that show what happened inside. But we have pictures of armed guards that had their guns drawn. We know at least 2 people have been shot. So this has turned into quite a moment here as we watch this situation. And again, we don't have any indication how many people have actually got inside of this building. That's a number I would love to know, because if we have, you know, if you had 50, 100,000 more than that people, it could have been a small number that are the troublemakers here that are causing these problems. And you have a lot of high-profile politicians inside who have armed guards that are very protective of them. And you can see how this can escalate very quickly. And we saw pictures of people, it looked like they were in Native American headdresses, and they were taking pictures inside right there on the floor of the House. It's been quite a moment here for our country, as today, the House and the Senate are debating whether or not to certify this election, and we got news that Mike Pence would not be playing along with what the president wanted, and I think that news might have stirred through. People find out that something they've been anticipating for weeks now, which was January 6th, something that had been built up in a lot of people's heads as maybe a defining moment when this election might be taken back for the president.
When the images came out of some guy with a Viking hat and other things posing in there, I'm not saying that I didn't think it was patriots, but that seemed to me the type of things that anti-FA would do. And then I turned over to Mrs. BCP and I said, you know what? This sounds like or looks like it could possibly be paid provocateurs. And then at the same time, we patriots are all types. We come in all shapes, colors, sizes, ethnicities, religions that love this country and that are absolutely sick of what's happening. And then at the same time, you have to ask yourself, in 2020, China unleashed a plague on us. The Democrats and the rhinos acted like it was all President Trump's fault. We had governors and other tyrants lock us down. People lost their jobs, lost their livelihoods, lost their businesses as Amazon and Walmart and everyone made tons of money. You keep people bottled up. You take away their rights, and then you steal an election from them? At what point does it not give? Evidence upon evidence is ignored by the courts. They're lied to by the press with the same lie, unfounded, baseless claims. Then we have Mike Pence, who a lot of us didn't trust. Some of us, like myself, were like, you know what? He's been pretty loyal to the president. That's a fact. He's been pretty loyal to the president. Perhaps he's going to come through on this. At least throw it back to the states. That wasn't a lot to ask of Mike Pence. To just say, look, in these 7 states, there's contested, it's been debated, let's throw it back to the states to make sure that those really are the electors they want to send back to us. And then he doesn't come through. The sneaky little tyrant, backstabbing Judas, releases that statement while President Trump is talking. I understand that was the timing of it. He's unfollowed President Trump on Twitter. And you expect, I mean, it was a powder keg. So like, no, maybe this was patriots. Now, just as I was saying this, probably within about 5 minutes later, Newsmax had this person on. It's Emerald, can't remember her last name, Robinson, one of their correspondents. She's really great on Twitter, on what she covers on Twitter. And she said this. And then when she said this, it started to remind me of, if you guys have been around a long time, if you've been part of the Patriot movement, I'm talking about if you are a Tea Party patriot, like many of us today were back then, you'll recall the fake people at the Tea Party movements with Nazi flags and all this other stuff. These paid provocateurs, these infiltrators that wanted to make us look bad, so they sent people in to look like us. Plus, when I went to D.C. about a month or so ago, a month and a half ago, we were told, be warned of people that would be wearing MAGA hats. We saw the anti-FA communication that they were going to act like MAGA people to cause issues and problems. And looks like that possibly may have been what happened. Let me show this to you. But first, let me show you this clip from Newsmax TV from their correspondent who was locked up, not locked up in prison, but was detained and was shuttled away when this infiltration, when this breach happened.
Everybody stand by just for 1 second. I want to go to our own Emerald Robinson, who's actually there on Capitol Hill. Emerald, tell us exactly where you are.
I'm actually down in the commissaries in the basement of the Capitol. I'm here with several other reporters.
You know, something, Emerald, that I just want to throw out, and something that we cannot confirm, but is something that is being talked about, is that the small number of people that got inside, the idea of the agent provocateur, that people came here with bad intentions, perhaps maybe to make this day look terrible, and do something like this and get inside the Capitol building. We can't rule that out. We have no idea.
Well, no, and I've been talking to the different groups outside, that I've been in contact with, and even earlier the day before they came to the Capitol, some had alerted me that they felt that there might be some nefarious actors within the rally crowd that weren't necessarily Trump supporters. So we had already been alerted to this prior to them actually making the movement to the Capitol. So that is definitely an aspect of this that many in the crowd have been considering.
Yeah.
And they've also been trying to keep, I know some of us I talked to have been trying to keep those around them calm and peaceful and keep it as a peaceful protest and stuff in the Capitol.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. And the fact that you were alerted to that before is very interesting to me, because that's not a new idea. That's something we've seen for a long time. The idea of an agent provocateur, somebody that goes into a situation to try and make the people in that situation look worse. You know, somebody could be a far left supporter that wants to go in and stir everything up and make it into something that it really wasn't intended to be. Because at the end of the day, most Trump supporters, as we know, typically love law enforcement, love the country, intensely, are not the kinds of people that are going to go inside the Capitol, and start shooting and start ripping things down. And I have to say, I did see initially, when I first started watching coverage, when the breach first happened, I saw people that were, even the ones that were inside, were orderly. And in an orderly fashion, were still just protesting. They were staying in single file line. It didn't really, to me, when this thing all flipped into all this violence, I was shocked. Because I thought, okay, they're going to go up to the building, they're going to go inside, they're going to make their voice heard. But these are usually law-abiding people that don't, go off with the nonsense that a lot of the far leftists and the anarchists in this country usually, the way they behave. And here again,
and they very much condemned, and a lot of these people very much condemned the violence we saw in riots over the summer, remember? And they were very much talking about the importance of law and order. So I think you have a point there, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we're not confirming anything. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about it all.
So the reporters and the reporting pool and the people that were there covering this were warned that this might happen, that it might be agents provocateurs, paid provocateurs, doing things they shouldn't to make the movement and President Trump look bad. And it almost seems like that would feed right into the Marxist playbook, because now, with only, if you believe their timeline, 14 days left for President Trump to be in office, they're already trying to impeach him again and get him out on the 25th Amendment. They don't even want him to finish out the 2 weeks that they claim that he legitimately has, because according to their claims, Joe Biden is the president-elect.
This is not news that we deliver lightly, and I want to make clear that what I'm explaining here is what is being discussed, whispered about among some cabinet members today, and that is whether to move forward with formal proceedings to try to invoke the 25th Amendment. That would allow for the removal of President Trump from office and for Vice President Mike Pence to effectively become Commander-in-Chief for the remaining days of the Trump presidency. My sources are telling me it has not been formally presented to the vice president. This is not about to happen. It is, however, being discussed right now. The very fact that the highest levels of the U.S. government and cabinet members are discussing this is quite newsworthy, quite notable, and it underscores the moment that we are at. I just want to make clear, this is not just political watchers. These are not just Democratic lawmakers who had been speculating all day that this should happen. I'm talking about actual members of the cabinet.
I was hopeful, I was optimistic, but I no longer at all trust Mike Pence. He could be in on this, and even if he's not, I don't think he is, he would be more than happy at this point to side with the 25th Amendment folks and be president for 2 weeks, to have a peaceful transfer of power from the legitimate president of 2016 and the legitimate president of 2020 and hand it over to an illegitimate Marxist, lying, stealing bunch of globalist Washington, D.C. types. They did it to JFK. What makes you think they wouldn't do it in 2021 to Trump? But trust me, there's 74 million people that are not going to be happy. And among those 74 million people, there's a lot who will take action. Now, let's look at some interesting evidence, if you will, of what was being said here. If you are familiar, there is a company called XR Vision, and they are very good at facial recognition. And this is what they found. This is absolutely incredible. This, as you can see, is from the Washington Times. Facial recognition firm claims anti-FA infiltrated Trump protesters who stormed Capitol. Trump supporters say that anti-FA members, disguised as one of them, infiltrated the protesters who stormed the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday. A retired military officer told the Washington Times that the firm XR Vision used its software to do facial recognition of protesters and matched two Philly anti members to two men inside the Senate. The source provided the photo match to the Times. One has a tattoo that indicates that he is a Stalinist sympathizer. A Stalinist is not going to be a MAGA person. Anti-FA promotes anarchy through violence and wants the end of America in favor of a Stalinist state. No more USA at all is a protest chant. XR Vision also has identified another man who, while not known to have antics links, is someone who shows up at climate and blam protests in the West. Born in Portland, Oregon, the anti-FA has mounted a year of violence in that city. The mayor said this week that anti-FA is trying to destroy the town and call for tougher police measures. Anti-FA, which is loosely organized nationwide, exports warriors to other towns. Before the November 4th election, one of their chapters sent out a social media reminder for members to disguise themselves as Trump supporters by wearing the distinctive red Make America Great Again hat. And if you recall, we covered this at the time, on November 4th, don't forget to disguise yourselves as patriots, Trump supporters. Wear MAGA hats, USA flags. A convincing police uniform is even better. This way, police and patriots responding to us won't know who their enemies are, and onlookers in the media will think there are Trump supporters rioting, so it's harder to turn popular opinions against us. That was correspondence from them on November 4th. They may have carried that out today. Now, let me give you even further information. We have reports that there was a busload of these anti-FA provocateurs in the midst. Breaking report. Former FBI agent on the ground at U.S. Capitol says at least one busload of the anti-FA thugs infiltrated Trump demonstration. According to a former FBI agent on the ground at the U.S. Capitol, at least one busload of goons infiltrated the Trump rally as part of an operation of disingenuous origin. Chaos erupted at the U.S. Capitol building on Wednesday after VP Mike Pence announced he would not block Biden's electors. Trump supporters are being blamed for all of the violence and chaos, but according to a former FBI agent, the anti-FA has infiltrated the Trump rally. The investigative reporter Paul Sperry, let me show you this tweet. Breaking, former FBI agent on the ground at U.S. Capitol just texted me and confirmed that at least one busload of thugs infiltrated peaceful Trump demonstrators as part of a false Trump op. Eyewitnesses, and this is from Jack Posobiec, eyewitnesses reports one of the first people to break a window at the Capitol wearing a U.S. flag shirt, but took it off and tossed it in bush after. Others in dark clothing urging people to rush forward, starting anti-government chants in crowd. That sounds like anti-FA to me. And the saddest thing is how quickly people folded. We had reported that Loeffler, who barely supposedly won in Georgia, was intending to go ahead and not to argue against the certification of the votes. But what do terrorists and Marxists do? They threaten you. And what do people do? They fold. And that's exactly what Kelly Loeffler has done.
Mr. President, when I arrived in Washington this morning, I fully intended to object to the certification of the electoral votes. However, the events that have transpired today have forced me to reconsider, and I cannot now in good conscience object to the certification of these electors. The violence, the lawlessness, and siege of the halls of Congress are abhorrent and stand as a direct attack on the very institution my objection was intended to protect.
Dirty, dirty, backstabbing, rhino bastards. Every single one of these bastards need to be voted out. President Trump went and stumped for her, helped her win, and what does she do? She falls for the Marxist playbook. Use violence and terror to scare people from doing the right thing. What does she do? She says she had all intention of questioning these things, but she cannot do it in good conscience. So the criminals, once again, make the fake ones fold. I never was a fan of Loeffler. I'm not in Georgia. I've always been a fan of anybody, and I'm not even convinced he really didn't win. And that, of course, is the great patriot Doug Collins. I mean, let's not forget that it was Kemp who appointed her to be your temporary senator over there in Georgia, and we know all about Kemp and his dirty, dirty tactics. The Chinese Communist Party, the Marxists, the Bolsheviks of America are involved and are in one of the most, if not the most seditious act at every level. And instead of standing up for right, because they have reconvened again the Senate, and I don't know when this is going to go up, sometime probably this evening or tomorrow morning. They are supposedly back in session doing the people's business, but now they are folding to the Marxists. If these were provocateurs, agents of provocateur agents, agents of mayhem, then their plan has worked if other people fold as well. Folks, this was a historic day, not in a good way. And let me just say this. If this was the work of paid provocateurs, we see what the plan is. And if this wasn't, is it really far-fetched to understand what is happening here? They have been crushing patriots. It's not about Trump, folks. It's about us, we the people, and our vote being robbed. And if you don't believe that there's enough shenanigans and irregularities to overturn the election, that's fine. But it should be vetted. It should be investigated. And they lie and say, the courts rejected it. Everyone's rejected it. The same criminals keep saying they're not guilty. They've never been examined. The blood of this great woman here in San Diego, who was shot through the door of the Capitol building, her blood is on the hands of Mike Pence, on all the dirty bastards in the Supreme Court and lower courts that continually rejected to see it, and everyone who has passed the buck. You bottle up patriots, you take away their rights, you take away their freedoms, you give them a fake scam of a demic, and keep them bottled up. Let's say it was legitimate, everything that we've seen. Everything has been used against them. Let's say what we've had with this virus, with this pandemic, is legitimate. It doesn't matter. They have taken away the rights of people unconstitutionally, illegitimately, and now they want to rob their vote. And even if you don't believe the vote was robbed, why not vet it? Why not investigate it? Why not prove that Joe Biden, Basement Joe, who not a damn person comes out to see, who called a lid yesterday at 10:31 a.m., who comes out and gives some pansy, stupid little speech and then scurries back into hiding, why not prove that he's a legitimate winner? Why stifle and lie and use these tactics? Because they are lying, Marxist, seditious, treasonous, traitorous, rat bastards. They don't love America. They don't love you. They don't love me. They hate us. They absolutely detest us. They want to put us in our place to be worker bees, to shut up and do what they want. And if these are paid provocateurs, it makes sense. If it's not, it makes sense as well. And time will tell. Let's see how this plays out. Of course, we'll have more reporting for you as more comes out. My heart goes out to this 14-year veteran in my hometown of San Diego who, unarmed, was shot through a glass door and a door and has fallen victim to this. She is the first martyr, perhaps, and what may end up being 1861 version 2. I pray it doesn't come to that. But folks, at this moment, will you really be surprised if it does? My heart goes out to all those who are suffering, to our nation divided. But what can we expect when we are dealing with demonic forces, people who worship power, money, and their pervy crimes, and make deals with dark ones and other people like them to cover their crimes, even when we can see it for our own eyes? They will go down denying it. They will never, ever cop to their crimes, folks. Do you understand this? They will use every tactic to stay in power. What are we going to do as a citizenry to take our power back? That is a legitimate question. When will this end and how will this end? I do not know. But I know I will be here to cover it for you. Please hit the like button and the subscribe button. And this video is surely not going to be liked by this platform. So if you want to support our work, you can do that over at bcpextras.com.
Thanks for joining us on Open Source News. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on that notifications bell so you don't miss a thing.